Alrighty, today we're going to go ahead and talk about how to solve systems of non-linear equations. So the past couple of days we've been doing just your basic x and y equations. And so we're going to go ahead, and again, you've got two methods. You can use the substitution method or you can use the elimination method. Alright, so we're going to just hop right into an example. Example 1, solve using substitution. Okay, so let's say I have x squared is equal to 2y plus 10, and 3x minus y is equal to 9. So I know that this is a linear equation. This is a quadratic equation. It would be a parabola if we graphed it. So I've been told that I have to do substitution. Now, that means that I have to get one variable all by itself. Do you realize that if I try to do this guy, I can't get x by itself unless I take a square root, which is going to be a royal pain when I go to plug it in here. So we're going to want to try to isolate somebody in the linear. Okay? So I start out with 3x minus y equals 9, and we want to get y by itself. I could get x by itself, but then that would give me a fraction in front of y. Alright, so let's go ahead and do negative y is equal to negative 3x plus 9. Now you're not done yet because y still has that negative, so I'm going to get y is equal to 3x minus 9. Alright, so step 1 was to do the substitution. And I'm going to not label them step 1, step 2, etc. in this video. I think by now you guys have gotten in the hang of that. Now you take your substitution and plug it in here. So I get x squared is equal to 2 times 3x minus 9 plus 10. And now I'm going to solve this. Alright, so I'm going to distribute that too. So x squared is equal to 6x minus 18 plus 10. So I get x squared is equal to 6x minus 8. Now, I'm not done. I still need to find x. But since x is squared, do you agree that I've got to bring everybody over and then factor? So I would have to get x squared minus 6x plus 8 is equal to 0. Now I can go ahead and factor. Alright, so think to yourself, last term is, ooh, that should just be an x. Last term is positive, so I either need a plus plus or a minus minus. And because of the middle term, I need a minus minus. Now I need things that multiply to give me 8, add to give me 6. And I'm hoping you got 2 and 4. And now our last step is to go ahead and separate them. And so I get x is 2 or x is 4. So I'm going to go ahead off to the side and say I've got 2 possible points this time. Okay, x could be 2 or x could be 4. What I want to do now is go back up to this equation and substitute in both of those values. Okay, so option 1, when x is 2. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in x is 2. Let me unzoom for just a minute so you can see everything I'm doing. Alright, I'm going to plug 2 into here. So 3 times 2 minus 9, which gives me negative 3. So when x is 2, y is negative 3. Now I'm going to do the same thing, plug it back into here when x was 4. So option 2, x was equal to 4, so I do 3 times 4 minus 9 is 3. Okay? Alright. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's do one more. of the ones that I force you to use substitution before I teach elimination. Alright, so let's do another one with substitution. Okay, so let's do x minus y equals 3, and x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 4. Alright, so this time I have again a linear equation, and then this equation, since both of them are squared, is going to be a circle. Alright, so again, it's already told me I have to use substitution. So let's go ahead and decide, alright, this thing is a hot mess, so let's deal with just the linear equation. And I either need to isolate x or y. And do you agree that x is the easiest one to isolate? So x is equal to y plus 3. I need to take that and substitute it in to this mess. Alright, and this is going to be a little bit tricky. So let's go ahead and say that we have x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared is equal to 4. And I'm going to take out x, and in its place I'm putting in y plus 3. So I get y plus 3 minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 4. Now I'm going to clean this up for a minute, and I get y plus 1 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 4. Alright, we still have to find y. So what I'm going to have to do now is go ahead and expand both of these binomials. So off to the side, I have to do what is y plus 1 times y plus 1. And what is y plus 3 times y plus 3. So now I need to FOIL this and FOIL that. So I get y squared plus y plus y plus 1. I get y squared plus 2y plus 1. Now I need to FOIL him. Y times y is y squared plus 3y plus 3y plus 9. So I get y squared plus 6y plus 9 equals 4. Well, let's go ahead and clean up this. So I get 2y squared plus 8y plus 10 equals 4. Alright, so I say, uh-oh, I've got a quadratic. So because this is squared, I need to zero out a side. So I get 2y squared plus 8y plus 6 equals 0. Now I'm ready to factor. Before we factor, let's see if we can't factor out a greatest common factor so that we can get rid of that lead. Because remember, anytime we have to factor with a lead, it's a pain in the butt. So they all are divisible by 2. So can't I go ahead and factor that out? And now because I factored out the 2, if you were to divide both sides by 2, do you agree that you just have y squared plus 4y plus 3 equals 0? Now I can factor that and get my factors of y. So y and y. Last term is positive, so I either need a plus plus or a minus minus. So I'm going to pick a plus plus, 3 and 1. Now let's separate it. So I have y plus 3 equals 0, and y plus 1 equals 0. So y is negative 3, or y is negative 1. Now I have to go all the way back to this equation, well, to any of the equations, and plug in these values. Now, ideally, you guys would go back to the original equation, because since we haven't manipulated it, that would be the purest equation we have. This obviously is easier, so I'm going to let you make that choice which one you want to go. The only dilemma with this is if you made a mistake, then you're not going to catch yourself. Alright, so I'm going to this time go all the way back to the beginning. So I'm running out of room. Option 1, y equals negative 3. Okay, now you could go all the way into this equation if you wanted to, but that's kind of a bear to have to make a substitution into. Alright, so I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to do x minus a negative 3 equals 3. And then for option 2, and I'm going to zoom in, where y is negative 1, I'm going to do x minus a negative 1 is equal to 3. Alright, so now I'm ready to solve this, and I get what? X plus 3 is equal to 3, so x is 0, or x plus 1 is equal to 3, so x is 2. So now let's write our ordered pairs. When x is 0, y is negative 3, and when x is 2, y is negative 1. And those are my points of intersection. If we were to graph this, what you'd see is, just pretend you have some circle and a line. Do you see that they intersect twice? That's why we're getting these double solutions. Alright? So that's solving by the substitution method. Let's go ahead and talk about the elimination method and see how far we get. And hopefully we'll go ahead and finish this and then just leave maybe some word problems for us to do in class tomorrow. Alright, so example 2, solve using elimination. So I have 4x squared plus y squared equals 13, and x squared plus y squared equals 10. So this time I've got a circle, and let's see, this isn't a circle, this would be an ellipse. Alright, and again, it's not that important that you guys know that. So what we're going to do is go ahead and say, I need to eliminate either my x squared or my y squared. So look and decide what would require the least amount of work from you. Alrighty. Do you agree that I'm going to go ahead and multiply this bottom one by negative 1 so I can cross out those y squared? So I have 4x squared plus y squared equals 13, and I have negative x squared minus y squared equals a negative 10. So my y squareds cancel, and I'm left with 3x squared is equal to 3. Divide by 3. So you get x squared is equal to 1. Now here's where you're going to make your mistake. When you take the square root, you get x is equal to 1 or x is equal to negative 1. So again, I get two roots, which if you think about, a circle and an ellipse would most likely intersect in two places, if they do intersect. Alright, so I have two values of x. Let's go ahead and plug them in and see what I get. So I'm going to go back to either equation you like. I think this is the easier guy, so that's the one I'm going to go into. Alright, so option 1, when x is equal to 1. Option 2, x is equal to negative 1. So I have x squared plus y squared equals 10, and I'm going to put in a 1. So 1 plus y squared is 10. So y squared is 9. When you take the square root, you get a positive or a negative 3. Alright, so let's go ahead and write down. When x is 1, I get a positive 3. When x is 1, I get a negative 3. Now let's plug in the negative 1 and see what we get. So x squared plus y squared equals 10. Negative 1 squared plus y squared equals 10. Oh, look at here. It's going to lead us to the exact same equation. So y again is plus or minus 3. So I get 1, negative 3, 1, 3. So this time I have 4 solutions to this problem. So sometimes you'll have one solution, sometimes you have 4 solutions, sometimes 3 solutions, sometimes 2. It all depends on the graph. Okay? And what I want to do is real quick just show you, guys, on this graph. So I'm on page 750 in the book. So here's your circle, here's your ellipse. Do you see that they intersect each other at those 4 points? So that's my solution. Okay? Alright, I think we have time to do one more. And then we'll let you, well, we'll see what you're going to do tonight. Maybe just practice one. Alright, so number 2. Let's do y equals x squared plus 3 and x squared plus y squared equals 9. Now this one would be a great one to do by substitution, right? Because y is already set equal. Unfortunately, I told you you had to do it by elimination. So you got to follow what I said you had to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this equation. So do you agree when I bring the x over, I get negative x squared plus y is equal to 3. And then I have my second equation, x squared plus y squared equals 9. Now the beautiful thing is my x squareds are automatically going to cancel. Now be careful. You cannot put these together because he is a y squared and he is a y. So I get y squared plus y is equal to 12. Because of that quadratic, I need to go ahead and bring the 12 over. So I get y squared plus y minus 12 equals 0. And now I can factor. If my last term is negative, I need 1 plus and 1 minus. Things that multiply to give me 12, subtract to give me 1, are what, 4 and 3. So I get y is equal to negative 4 or y is equal to 3. Okay, now we're ready to take these and substitute them back into either of these equations. Alright, I think the top equation is easier, so that's the one I'm going to plug into. So, option 1, y is equal to negative 4. And I said I'm going to do y is equal to x squared plus 3. Option 2, y is equal to 3. Okay, so I'm going to plug in negative 4, I'm going to plug in a 3, and I'm going to see what I get. So negative 4 is equal to x squared plus 3. So I get negative 7 is equal to x squared. When you take the square root of a negative number, all of a sudden you get plus or minus I square root of 7. Now, we're not going to acknowledge that that's a real root. So we cross that out. Now I see maybe if this one would give me an answer. 3 is equal to x squared plus 3. 0 is equal to x squared. So x is equal to plus or minus 0. But does 0 have a plus or minus? No, 0 is just 0. So my only solution is 0, 3. Alright, so that wraps up this lesson. We'll practice it in class tomorrow and maybe be able to do an application problem. You guys have a great evening.